Hi, my name is Björn and this is a Houdini quadruped rigging tutorial. In this video we'll be starting the setup for the head. From the side view, let's draw out a bone for the head. Let's also draw out a bone for the jaw. Let's make sure it has a pivot from a realistic point within the head. I'll name the two bones head and jaw respectively. While I'm at it, I'll create a controller for the jaw bone by using the existing null that we got from creating the bone. I'll set it to control sub input, and within the subnetwork of the controller null, I'll create a curve. This time I'll draw out a two-dimensional rectangle. You could also just draw in the camera view a nice shape that would fit a jaw controller. In this case though, I'm going the boring mechanical way, typing out the points that I want placed. And because I don't want to play too much around with the numbers I typed in, I'll use the transform node to scale and place my controller. Okay, next I want to create the head controller. I'll use the existing null node that I got from the head bone to create this controller. I'll use the display center attribute to move the controller without moving its pivot. Now I can go on and draw out a bone chain to fit into the ear. I'll just make this a simple FK setup. Once done, I can use the mirror tool to mirror my ear setup to the other side of the character. Again, you can find the mirror tool on the Modify, and then select the nodes you want to mirror and hit enter. Just like when we mirrored the legs, I'm gonna set the controllers to be red on the right side of the character. Okay, now I have some shapes that I created earlier for the face to create certain expressions, so let's go to the geometry node and enter the subnetwork. We're gonna need this setup in a minute, so let's import our shapes and connect them to a blend shape node. Under the subnetwork of the main character's geometry, go and type blend shape. You'll find the blend shape node. We can start by hooking the imported geometry up to this blend shape node. Now you can either sculpt on your existing geometry and create shapes from that, or you can use a file node to import existing geometry that you got from modeling or modeled yourself. So go ahead and import all of your shapes, name the nodes accordingly, and connect them up to the blend shape node. Once done, and to prevent the blend shape node from complaining, go to the blend shape node and click on Update Channel Names from Inputs. This is going to update the list in the blend shape node's interface. And you should be able to test and blend in your shapes by manually dragging on the slider. I'll make a copy of my imported shape geometries and rename them to right, because I have shapes for the right side of the character that I need to import and connect to the blend shape node. Remember, to rename bulk, press Alt and W. With this tool, I can rename selected nodes in one go. Now I just need to import my geometry for the right side of the character and connect it to the blend shape node. Once done, don't forget to update channel names from inputs. You'll find that on the blend shape node itself. Okay, let's go ahead and create a controller for the face. Make it any shape you like and scale it and place it on the character close to where it's supposed to drive geometry. Once placed and scaled so that it looks nice, you might find that translating it to a value of 1 is going to translate it way into the distance away from the character. We want to drive our blend shapes with an input from a 0 to 1 relationship, so let's make our controller go from 0 to 1 within the space of the character's face. One way to do this is to create an offset null on top of your controller and scale that one down. Doing that will make your controller smaller, but you can scale it back up. The point of doing this is to reduce the world space scale for the controller itself, so that in local space the controller may translate from 0 to 1 in one of the axes, but in world space relative to that, it only translates a fraction. If you want to save that extra offset null for a rainy day though, go ahead and find out at which position you'd like your controller to stop and have the value at 1. On mine, if I translate it in set, I think it should stop at around 0.05. So we'll go ahead and make that the new 1. To do that, let's edit the parameter interface of the controller. I'll start out by adding two floats. One is going to be the translate Z value and one is going to be the translate Y value. This controller is going to translate both in Y and the Z axis. My attribute naming is more descriptive of what's going into the attribute rather than what it's driving, so if you want to make it clear to yourself in the future, go ahead and name the attributes mouth edge backwards, mouth edge up, or whatever the name is of the shape that motion of the controller is going to drive. So I'll copy the parameter from the translate set of the controller and paste it into my custom attribute translate set. Now I can go in and edit the expression. I basically wanted to output the value 1 when the controller reaches translate set 0.05. Now 0.05 multiplied by 20 gives 1. So let's multiply the input from this with 20. Now you should be able to see that the custom attribute with the expression in it outputs 1, even though the translate value we pipe into it is only 0.05. Now to prevent our controller from going above 1 in value, or 0.05 in this case, let's go and right click on the attribute itself, translate set, go to motion effects and choose limit. In here we can set a minimum and a maximum value for the attribute. So let's set it to minus 0.05 and 0.05. If we now go back out and check, we can see that the controller is unable to translate beyond the specified values. That's good, because now it can't go beyond 1 in our output from the custom attribute. Let's go ahead and put in the same limit for the translate Y attribute for the controller. Right click translate Y, go to motion effects and select limit. Put in the minimum and maximum values and close the window. Let's prevent the controller from being moved in any other way than the ones we specified, so let's lock all the attributes we don't need. Okay, so at this point you should have a controller null, and you should have your motion effects node. In here, we can see the two limits that we set up. We can easily change these limits to something else if we prefer. With that done, we should be ready to move on to the next video in which we'll continue the face and head setup. So see you in the next video.